Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM, channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. Spring is finally here, and now is the time to get your lawn show place ready for the season. Now, whether you have a green thumb or you absolutely hate playing in the dirt, my guest has some easy to do and don't tips to make your yard the envy of the neighborhood. Correll Wright is the owner of Mr. Fertile Lawn Care. Correll, thank you so much for joining the conversation. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you, Earl, for having me. I'm definitely appreciate you having me here.
Absolutely. So let me just share a couple of fast facts as we always do. On average, Americans spend about $300 a year on lawn care. They put in about 70 hours a year of do-it-yourself labor caring for their yards. And the biggest lawn care mistake Americans make is poor water management, including overwatering and underwatering. So officially, uh, we are
Yeah.
we're in spring, daylight saving time this past Sunday. What is the first thing that you recommend that people do this week? The weather's been pretty nice.
Yes, it has. The first thing that I recommend that everyone does is take their time to walk around and check your lawn out. Just take a look at it. It's very difficult not to assume what's wrong or to remember what you saw last year or last time you were on the lawn. But take a minute and just walk around and see what you have. After that, definitely start to clean up best you can. There's been a lot of storms, a lot of leaves are down, a lot of tree branches and debris. Go ahead and start getting those things up so that way the sun can touch the soil. That's the first two things that I definitely recommend for everybody. Take a look and start to clean up.
What are you looking for?
You're looking for trouble spots, anything that looks off to you. um, Thin areas around the trees in your lawn that have thinned out over the years. You're looking for areas where you've taken trees out, maybe. You're looking for areas where you possibly had an above ground pool or a fire pit or anything that would obstruct the normal grass from growing. You want to just take a look to see what's going on. If you have some thin areas, you might want to get those fixed or adjust them so that way they can be as picturesque as you want. Also, consider what you want to have happen this year. You may have graduations coming up, Mother Day celebrations, Easter, the things outside on your yard. You definitely want to see if there are any spots that are uneven or unsightly so that way you can focus your attention on those.
That's interesting because I really didn't even think about that, and I was actually looking at my backyard, which is relatively it's flat, but it's also brown, and that's probably because I've been a little trifling with my backyard. you
We
know,
get busy in life. We're busy.
yeah, I know, but is that normal to have a brown yard as we've moved from winter into spring right now?
It actually is normal for a couple of reasons. Some homes have what's zoysia or Bermuda grass in, so it goes dormant in the winter, and that's the brown that you'll see. Those are easily identifiable as the lawns that look perfect in July, even though it's no water out there. The other thing is the brown spots are possibly dead weeds that have died from last fall and that haven't come back yet. So a lot of times that's how you're able to notice where the crabgrass is in your lawn, is by
Hmm.
those brown areas or those thin areas and dead spots. You'll start to see it come up quicker and it's a light green, so it'll really stand out to your eyes. So you'll be looking for the brown spots, which are usually dead weeds or dormant grass. And then after that, you'll be looking for any type of green that is not the normal green you're used to seeing.
You mentioned zoysia and Bermuda grass. Is that what is common here in the DMV?
It's actually not. What's common here is turf type tall fescue. So whenever you have a home built and you have sod put down, that's the type of sod that they place when you first purchase your home. What happened is a lot of people have gone online and are from the South, so they're accustomed to a different type of grass, and they've uh, introduced that grass to their regular lawn, and it's taken over. So if you've gone driven throughout neighborhoods and you've noticed in the winter, you have some lawns that are just always brown. Those lawns are Bermuda or Georgia. That's a quick, easy way to tell. They're the only ones that stay brown because it's cold. It's not supposed to be here.
Okay. Um, so how do you prepare your lawn for this season? I mean, if you, as you said, you kind of go out, you look around, and you may see brown spots. Or my yard, for example, is one big brown spot in in the back. I mean, there's no green uh, whatsoever. In the front yard, there are brown spots and some green spots, and that's pretty much the way it is around the neighborhood. So, kind of walk me through some of those first steps to get the yard ready. What do I need to do?
Well, after you've made a plan of attack or went through on your plan of attack of cleaning up the lawn, then definitely head to your local nursery. I try to stay away from the big box stores. So head to your local nursery and look for weed control, which has crabgrass preventer in it. As long as there is a crabgrass preventer in the weed control, the fertilizer that comes with it off of the shelf is a balanced mix, and you can apply that right now to your lawn. And that's pretty much the first attack at nutrients to make things go the way that you want it to be start that picturesque lawn because it is a process, and that would be the first step.
Should you cut the lawn first before applying it?
Only if you can put your hand in your lawn and it covers your hand. If your palm is not covered by the grass that's already there throughout your lawn is still asleep. Your lawn went dormant when we first had our deep freeze back in December. It will not wake up fully for another week or two. Now, though the ground is warmer than normal, the overall lawn is still not waking up. You still have a couple of weeks before you start to see the grass start to perk up, things really start to get green. And I always recommend to any of my clients never to start mowing prior to the second week of April.
Why is that?
9 times out of 10, we're definitely going to get a cold snap. We're definitely not going to be ready to mow. You tend to see your neighbors start mowing and a lot of the landscapers coming around to mow. And you may have already had your first lawn care visit of the season, but it's not time to mow until right before the second visit, which would be a month and a half or so into the season. So it helps you get past the late winter cold snaps, the extra rain that may come, the extra couple of weeks of cleanup from any of those things that you may need. And once the grass actually starts to perk up and you can put your hand in it, then you cut it on the highest setting on your lawnmower. That is extremely important. You always want to mow at the highest setting because that's going to give you the protection that you need going forward into the summer. This is where your summer protection starts.
Hmm. You mentioned you're not a fan of the big box stores. What's wrong with that?
A lot of the products that are from the top manufacturers are just placed on the shelf to sell, and they're not necessarily specific to the area that we live in.
Oh,
So you may have a lot of products that um, would do better in Kentucky or would do better in Tennessee. And though those states are close, even North Carolina, those states are close, it's not going to give you the same amount of nutrients sometimes that is needed in Maryland soil. That's why I recommend going to your local nursery. A lot of times you'll have products from them from that are already certified by the Maryland Department of Agriculture to have the appropriate nutrients to get your lawn fed properly. If you grab the wrong package and place it on the lawn, and I have a lot of clients who call with this, usually in May, they've applied weed killer and not weed control, and now their lawn is dead or has patches or it didn't apply evenly because a lot of times off the shelf that product has been sitting there for months and sometimes years before it's moved to the front. It's caked up and you're not able to get an even spread on your lawn. Once it rains, that shows. And then you're again dealing with the frustration of, oh, why did I do this? I feel like I wasted money. And to get around all that, go to your local nursery, speak with someone there. The products that they have are fairly new. So it hasn't been sitting outside since last year, hasn't had that time to cake up. So when you apply it, it will apply more evenly, and the nutrients are more specifically for Maryland soil.
So help me here. So basically, what you're saying is local nurseries, local grass.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
That makes a big difference.
That makes a lot of sense. And you said something that kind of caught my ear: weed killer versus weed control. So
Mhm.
what is the difference between the two?
Weed killer is pretty much a short-term roundup. And a lot of times when you are purchasing off of the shelf, you'll see weed, and you'll overlook the weed and grass on that label. And that there is a total weed killer. It's a non-selective control. Everything is going to go. So if you want to purchase it off the shelf, you want to look for something that specifically says crabgrass preventer, and that will give you the control of the weeds versus the kill.
Hmm. Hmm. So, and you mentioned crabgrass, but there are so many different kinds of weeds. We got crabgrass, dandelions, um, something that looks like ivy, uh,
Yeah, ground ivy,
wild
purple hornetip.
strawberries.
Absolutely, it's hundreds of weeds that grow on our lawn, and a lot of them look the same. There are 5 or 6 different types of clovers that grow on everyone's lawn. And a lot of times, homeowners will say, "Well, I put something down and it said it would control the clovers, and it did for a couple of weeks, but now I see more." Well, that it's technically a different type of clover, but and that's where a lot of the DIY frustration comes in. So it's definitely important to go local and have some patience with what you're applying to the lawn because you're not really going to see the full um, results of what you've applied 9 times out of 10 off of the shelf yourself for at least 21 to 28 days. You'll start to see a quick result within 7, and that's just to make sure you don't run back to the store for your money back. But have the patience. Typical results are 21 to 28 days.
Mm. Corral, I need to take a quick break, but before I do, for people who are looking to connect with you, where can they find you? How can they reach you?
They can reach me on my website. It's Mr. Fertile Lawn Care, just spelled how it's said. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. If you just type in Mr. Fertile Lawn Care or the Mr. Fertile, all the everything will pop up.
I would imagine this is the season where business is going to really start to ramp up for you. I still have so many more questions for you about do it yourself lawn care. So please hang on just a moment. We are going to take a quick break, but don't forget you can hear this and every edition of the Daily Drum Insight segment via podcast on WHUR.com. The original Quiet Storm with Raheem Devon is next on WHUR. I'm Harold Fisher. This conversation continues on Sirius XM channel 141 and 96.3 HD2 in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our conversation about do-it-yourself spring lawn care. My guest is Carell Wright, owner of Mr. Fertile Lawn Care Service. We've been talking mostly about weeds, and I still have plenty of questions about that. Um, One of the things that you were talking about, like clover, there are 4 or 5 different clovers, and you may kill one, but the others keep coming. Um, what is, if you're going to get weed control, is it better to get dry weed control or wet weed control after you put it down? How soon should you water your lawn after application? Should you do it before? What help me with that?
All those are very good questions. And the honest answer is everything matters and everything is different. With some weed controls and the dry products, if you, it's definitely advised to learn the product before you apply it. Read over those instructions on the back a couple of times so that you're sure. In some instances, it is best if you do water first. In some instances, it's not advised to water till at least 48 hours later. Sometimes you want to rush just to apply it because it's going to rain. And depending on the time of year that you're applying that, it may not be the best product to do so, and it'll tell you that. And what you'll see is when it rains, you'll have uneven results. Sometimes a dark green area, then a light green area, and then another dark green and light green area on the lawn. And that's pretty much the product saying you didn't follow my instructions. So
Hmm.
everything is completely different. And fortunately and unfortunately, there is a different weed control that should be applied almost every season and sometimes every month just to get proper control of what's going on in the lawn, at least for the first year to 2 years.
I've seen some people over the years aerate, poking holes in their lawn, and they're like, what is that exactly?
Aeration is just as simple what you said, it's poking holes in the lawn. But these holes allow for more sunlight and air and moisture to get to the roots of the grass quickly. That's other thing that it does is clips the roots and tells them to wake up out of dormancy. Now, this can be good and bad. I don't always recommend aerating in the spring. The reason being, you run a very high risk of waking up crabgrass because the
Mm.
holes that you punch are indiscriminate in the roots that they clip. So that's why it's typically um, said to do in the fall because you take in the spring to in the summer to control most of the weeds. A lot of the rough weeds have gone into dormancy, and what you're doing is waking your grass back up and applying new grass seed out there to fill in any damaged spots.
Mm.
So in the spring, I don't always recommend aerating. If you do, I always recommend having the same person who does your weed control and fertilizer treatments to do your aeration and overseeding. If the person who is mowing um, wants to do your aeration and overseeding, I often advise homeowners not to do that. And it's simply because it's not the best approach to get you the results that you're looking for. And what I've seen time and time again is homeowners call and they're more frustrated than anything. And it's because they've allowed the same person who cuts their grass to also do their aeration. And they're upset that they spent a lot of money and did not get the results that other people got when they used the same person or the same company who was applying their fertilizer to do their and their weed control to do their aeration and overseeding.
Mm.
Another big thing that I hear in the spring is about dethatching. Though dethatching is can be beneficial, and that's just scraping away the dead grass from the top. It's
Right.
extremely high maintenance, and when it's done properly, it can be extremely costly. If you have a low quote for dethatching, it's probably not going to be done properly. Um, it takes a lot to go through the entire lawn and clear out all of the dead grass just so the sun and the rain can hit the soil again. I recommend, instead of dethatching, having someone bag the trimmings of your lawn. It may take a little longer. Your landscaper may charge you $10 or $20 more, but I promise you the results are worth it. Bagging your clippings, it's going to take away the thatch. You're going to have more sunlight getting to your soil, and you're not going to have the weeds that you're trying to get out of the lawn recycled back into the lawn via mulching when it's just being trimmed and left there and blown to the side.
I forgot to mention this one thing about a weed control.
Hmm.
Some people have pets, some people have children.
Hmm.
What should you look for to make sure that, number one, any weed control, anything that you put on your lawn is safe for pets and children and is also environmentally safe? How do you balance all of that?
The easiest way to balance is to remember that if you bought it out of the store, it's 90% already safe. It's watered down enough that you would literally have to drink it for it to cause an issue. This is not including those people with allergies to certain chemicals that may already be in there. Outside of that, you always want to make sure you use the product properly. As long as you are following the instructions, pets don't run a huge risk. Children do not run a huge risk. No, the adults don't run a huge risk, and you do not run a huge risk of damaging your lawn. This mainly is because the manufacturers tend to water down it and the liquid versions and apply enough filler in the granular versions so that way they try to mitigate this issue from happening no matter how bad you do it. And it'll show if you just applied in one area, then that area will be bad. But as far as a human or a child case, it's extremely rare. We do always recommend that if you are spraying liquid weed control or fertilizer on the lawn, that you allow the lawn to dry at the very minimum, allow the lawn to become completely dry. Give it a couple of hours before you or your pets or your children walk out there. And the main reason is because you don't want it to touch your skin if you have very sensitive skin, but you also don't want to move it into another area. So if you let your dog out right after, your dog runs around in the lawn after it's been sprayed but not dried, but then runs through your flower bed, you may have some damaged flowers because the chemicals are for the grass aren't always safe for the flower bed. They're completely different. And on the back of the packages, it'll say if you introduce one to the other, it's not going to be
You spoke earlier about grass seeds. Is this
pretty.
the time of year to put down grass seeds? What do you recommend for this DMV area? And how do you do that?
It's a case by case basis. This goes back to what we spoke about in the beginning on going out and walking around your lawn and seeing exactly what you may need. I do recommend that you only apply turf type tall fescue seeds to your lawn. Main reason being they are drought resistant. So when we have our droughts in the summer, your lawn is going to go dormant. It's not versus dying off. Kentucky 31, which is what a lot of people from the South or Midwest are used to using. Once the temperatures go above 90 degrees in the summer and our humidity kicks in, it's going to kill that grass and you'll have weeds take over. And then you'll wonder why your lawn doesn't look the same as it did in April that it does in July. Another thing that I highly recommend is if you're not going to the nursery to purchase your seeds, then when you are at the big box stores, you turn that package all the way around. and you treat it like the food you eat. You read the ingredients. There are ingredients on the back of every weed control on the shelf, every grass seed bag on the shelf as well. And what you really want to look for, and here's a secret that the main industry does not want you to know. So please, all the listeners, pay attention, if nothing else, to this one thing. When you go into the store and you grab the bag of grass seed off the shelf, turn it around, and look for the expiration date. The grass seed on the
Really?
shelf is allowed to be there for 2 years before it's deemed not usable. So if you go into the store and you turn it around and it is a sticker over top of the actual bag, it's already a year old. They come in and they place the stickers on there that say the exact same thing on the bag. It just says, instead of expiring in April 2025, it now expires in April 2026. That is
Wow.
one big reason why I do not suggest always making your purchases from the big box stores, because they have to stay in business as well. But that does not mean that you're going to receive the best product. If you go to the nursery, a lot of times those bags don't exist at the nursery. They only
Mhm.
order enough to get through a couple of weeks. Once all of those are gone, another fresh order comes in. And then you're allowed to leave it in your garage for safe, or your shed for safekeeping, for over a year before it loses out on how well it's going to germinate. But if you're already purchasing seeds from off the shelf, and last year it was supposed to germinate 90%, this year it's only supposed to germinate 80%. And who's to say it actually does that? Because in the spring, you have to water, you have to make sure you apply it at the right time. You have to make sure you put the right feed on top of it. Because if you apply crabgrass preventer or any type of crabgrass protection, you 9 times out of 10 cannot apply seed. So it's a choice that you have to make.
What about birds eating the seed? Is that a real problem? I mean, are they going to, if you put down fresh grass seed, are they going to eat them all up? Is there a way to address that?
But birds are not going to eat all of the grass seed.
Okay.
It's definitely something I hear a lot, and in theory and in thought, you can see the birds going out eating the seeds. But if you look at the amount of seed that is typically applied, even on a low setting, it's not enough birds that are gonna show up to eat that many seeds on your
Okay, yeah, that's good to hear because I do remember, years ago seeing some birds. This was a long time ago, seeing some birds kind of pecking at some seeds I put down. I don't know whether they did any had any significant impact to the
lawn.
seeds that I
No,
had. Yeah. So
yeah.
okay. I feel better about that now. I definitely feel better
Think of
about
it
that.
like this. In any given small area, there may have been 100 seeds. They may have eaten 15.
Okay. Okay, that feels good. Now, what do you do about weeds that are coming up through um, patio bricks? Is there a different kind? Is that weed control, weed killer? What do you do about that?
That is weed killer, and I always advise to be extremely careful when dealing with that. Uh, I often recommend to make your own DIY weed killer, which is just Epsom salt, vinegar, a couple of drops of dish soap, and some water in a small spray bottle,
Hmm.
and that will neutralize the weed. It'll sterilize it, and it'll shrivel up. That way, if you see the weeds popping up on your driveway, you're able to spray them safely without it affecting your grass. Because what you don't want to do is go through any of your bricks through the lawn or on the edge of the lawn, and then you spray those, and then it rains. Because then you're going to have it streaked in the lawn, or you're out back on the deck in the patio and you're spraying, and then you rinse it off, and then in a week and a half, you have a lot of brown spots and you're wondering, why does my grass look this way? You sprayed, you transferred the weed killer off of the solid uh, ground onto the grass. So it leached, it spread out, and it was able to attack where it got.
Mm. Now here's another issue that a lot of people have. I know I have it. Uh, I get a lot of sun in the front yard,
Mhm.
considerably less in the backyard. How do you handle the fertilizer, weed control? How should you treat a sunny one part of a sunny yard and one part of a not so sunny yard?
Well, the good thing about that is you treat it all equally as far as
Oh,
feeding. When you're feeding and you're taking care of the weeds, you treat the entire lawn just like it's one piece, nothing is different. The only thing that you want to be cautious of is solid ground. And whatever patio you have, you just don't treat the patio or the brickwork in the middle of the grass. And that's the only thing you really have to look out for. Um, where you have to balance out what you have. And this comes with what we talked about in the beginning, walking around the lawn and looking at what you actually have. You made a good reference to an area receiving more sun than another area. And as it warms up, the area that receives the most sun, that's where you want to focus the most watering at. So if you have a sprinkler system, then you want to adjust to the area with more sun and allow it 5 more minutes of watering. You want to take the shaded area, you want to take those timers and decrease them by 5 minutes. And that way you'll create more of a balance on what's going on in the lawn. When you feed the lawn, it'll evaporate more evenly. And the main thing you want to do is make sure you set your times to water before 10 a.m. So that way
so wait a minute. You said make sure that you water before 10 a.m. Why?
Well, it's important to water before 10 a.m. so that way the watering that you do evaporates evenly throughout the day. As we go into the summer months and it starts to get warmer and warmer, you will create more of an issue watering at night. It'll become a better area for weeds to grow, for funguses to grow, for mold and moisture to stay on longer. You will help feed moss areas in the lawn. A lot of things can go wrong if you are watering in the evening when you get home from work or when you first settle down from everything that you've done that day versus taking the time and watering on the weekend or when you have a free morning. The other important thing with that is balancing out your watering. I definitely understand everyone having a very busy schedule. So, what I always recommend to my homeowners is to pick a time, Saturday or Sunday morning, or a day where you're off during the week. Go head out before 10 o'clock, set the timer, and water. A good way to measure how long you are watering that open area that gets more sun that we were speaking of is to take an empty tuna fish can and place it in the middle of that area that's receiving all of the extra sun. Turn the sprinkler on and let it wade back and forth until that tuna can fills up. When that tuna can fills up, you have watered your lawn for 2 inches.
Hmm.
So that is the quickest, easiest, and simplest way to effectively water your lawn, no matter what the temperature is or when you stop to do it. The lawn needs at least an inch of water during the cool seasons and 2 inches during the summer. So you time it, and if once a week you get the 1 inch, then you go ahead and you add another inch. And right now we're actually 14 inches into a drought. So if your lawn does not look how you want, do not worry. You're not alone. The best thing you can do is continue to have nutrients supplied so that way everything doesn't die. Because as we talked about, that turf type tall fescue grass seed that most of everybody in Maryland has in their lawn, it's extremely resistant. So all it needs is a little water. If we could get 14 inches of water or rain in the next 9 weeks, then we would be out of this severe drought. So you're either going to consistently water, or we'll get a couple of great rains every single week, and then you will see exactly what your lawn's full potential is.
What about mulch? We see a lot of people putting, mulch around their shrubbery and what have you, but I've also heard that some mulches can be problematic. What's your recommendation with that?
My recommendation is not what shocks a lot of homeowners. I always recommend that you mulch at least 3 inches and that you measure those 3 inches. It is very easy to just grab what's on sale and spread it out very thinly. Then in a few weeks, you're wondering why you have such weeds throughout that same area. Well, the sun penetrates 3 inches to the soil surface. So the first thing you want to do is clean out any weeds that are already starting to show their face. Then apply Preen. That's at the store. It's weed control that's safe for the flower beds. It's specifically for the flower beds, and it comes in a little shaker bottle. You shake it throughout there, and then you add in your mulch, 3 inches or about the thickness of the bag of mulch, all the way around. If you do that, you're going to help the ground warm up and hold its temperature. As it starts to warm up, you're going to help it stay cool as it heats up in the summer. You're going to have less weeds throughout the flower bed because the sun doesn't have uh, that much ease to go ahead and feed those bare areas, which are pretty much waiting for that random rain and then a
Mhm.
really hot day, and then all of a sudden, all of the weeds in the flower bed pop up. Got to block them out, give them some shade. The
And that
same
goes
thing
for shrubs too and bushes.
for the shrubs. You want to make sure that you leave an area around the roots. So as far as your leaves on you or your branches on your shrubs go out, you want to leave a nice area in the middle. So that way when it's watered, your water goes into there and not up on the stems and the main roots of your trees and shrubs. So with your trees like your crepe myrtles and things around the lawn, you don't want to do the volcano style mulch that you may want.
Okay.
You want to stay away from that because it will introduce bugs to your trees a lot sooner. It can start to cause root problems that you will not see until the next season. So it's a big health concern when you're in the flower bed to properly mulch as well. You do not want to crowd the roots. You don't want to crowd the main stem of your tree or your shrub. You want to leave an area to water, but you also want a nice thick layer of 3 inches to give some nice cushion and shade.
What about black mulch versus the red mulch or the
Mhm.
brown? Does it matter?
It does and it doesn't. Um,
Yeah, I keep hearing that.
Because here's the thing, a happy wife is a happy life, and a lot of wives look at their home and they say the red mulch is going to pop. That's exactly what I want.
You said the red mulch is going to what?
It's going to pop. It's
Okay,
going to
it's
really
gonna
make
look nice.
it. It's going to, yep. It's going to give it that grand view, the curb appeal. It's really going to make it look just how they envision. But the red mulch is also going to attract more Japanese beetles, and it's also going to attract more beneficial bugs to your flower bed, which you may not like towards your house. The ants, crickets, spiders, they all love red mulch a lot better than black mulch. And you can also see what's going on on the black mulch or the brown mulch versus the red mulch, because once those insects start making their homes, it blends in very well. So you don't see it until you have damage to your trees and your shrubs, and then we get a call to come out and see what's going on. Does it need food or what's going on? 9 times out of 10, the bugs are going to work, and the bugs are going to work because they go off color and they see red and they attract to it. And even though it looks pretty, it brings some bugs sometimes.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know a whole lot of what you've been sharing, and this can be, complicated, even if you have a postage stamp size lawn, like I do. Any final thoughts you want to share? You provided a lot of great information.
Well, thank you. The main thing that I want to share is be patient. Mother Nature doesn't rush, yet everything gets done. Now, that's a quote that I learned coming into this industry. It's something that I keep with me. Uh, the results are not going to be always exactly what you want that next week. You have to give it time. You have to allow the process to go through and show itself. Don't be scared to ask for help. A lot of things you can do yourself, but a lot of times you want to call in a professional to take care of the things that you can't take care of. And the main thing that I recommend being able to do yourself that you have the most control over is mowing. You can
Mm.
control if it's mowed high, you can control if it's mowed frequent, you can control how it looks when it's mowed so that you receive the best results. If you do not have the time or the patience to consistently deal with your weed control and the feedings, feel free to reach out to Mr. Fertile Lawn Care, and we can take care of that part for you. That way, the only thing you have to do is come home, look at your lawn, and smile. Come out on the
Hey,
weekends, mow it, and give it some water, and then you go back about your time. Other than that, I'll have a YouTube page that has a lot of this information, or in either social medias, we'll have a lot of this information starting weekly. So feel free to reach out, ask questions, and I'll definitely be interacting more. I've heard over the years that I definitely have a lot of knowledge
you do,
about
yeah.
that.
Look,
Is Yeah, it's
you
what I
do.
love to
I'm
do.
learning. I'm learning a lot just right now. I
Yeah.
appreciate you taking the time during this busy season.
Oh, it's my
I
pleasure.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Carell. Right, Mr. Fertile Lawn Care.com, Mr. Fertile Lawn Care.com. Look, I'm going to be in touch. I'm going to try to do my best to get this right, but I certainly appreciate your time.
No problem. Reach out anytime. Thank you, everybody.
That is the Daily Drum for this Wednesday, March 12th. I'm Harold Fisher.